Nopony Expects the Spanish Inquisition. Written by Brown Dog 77. Read by no one and nobody. Chapter 3. The Comfy Chair.
Granny, how many pictures did you take at the reunion?
An exasperated Applejack asked her grandmother. The elderly green mare just looked at her granddaughter with a thoughtful look.
I'd say about 2,563,
said Granny Smith, to the shock of Applejack.
Why, was it not enough?
Applejack looked at the living room table, where, if Granny Smith's calculations were correct, then over 2,500 photos sat, with some stacks going as high as the ceiling.
No, Granny, replied Applejack. If anything, I'd say it was overkill.
Today was going to be the day that both of them put together the latest Apple family reunion photo album. At the reunion, where they had raised the barn 1, 2, 3, 4, each of the Apple siblings, along with Granny Smith, had been given a camera to capture all the moments they could. But it appeared that the old mare had outshined them all.
How'd you even manage to take all these here photos?
She asked in shock and amazement.
Well, I put the camera doohickey in front of my face, then I hit the button what captures the scene,
Granny replied matter-of-factly. Applejack rolled her eyes. She had walked right into that one. Regardless, the amount of photos was ginormous, and it didn't even include the ones she, Big Macintosh, and Applebloom had taken.
Shoot, we're probably going to need a bigger album, and the whole family to sort through this mess, she said aloud to her grandma.
Horse apples. You and me can get this done ourselves, Sugar Cube, with just one book,
she said with confidence.
Let Bloom and Mac go play with their friends. This is our job.
Wait, who is Big Mac hanging around with? All his buddies are still at work,
she asked curiously.
Oh, some mayor or another. Picnic, I think. But that's his business, and this album is ours. Let's get to it, girl,
she said with enthusiasm, and ran, or rather hobbled, over to the couch and sat down. As Applejack joined her on the couch, with these stacks of pictures, she let herself wonder who Big Mac's special lady was. She decided she would ask him later.
Good on him finding some pony,
she thought.
Just as long as they ain't one of my friends. Else I'll kill 'em both.
She put these thoughts aside as the daunting task of sorting the army of pictures in front of her became her sole focus. Applejack grabbed about 100 and sat them down in her lap as Granny Smith did the same. The empty photo album sat between them, waiting to be filled.
All right, let's see here,
AJ mumbled as she picked up the first photo.
Here's one of Uncle Applestrudel,
she told her granny.
Oh, that's nice. Always good to see him.
The old mare smiled.
Which one is it?
Huh?
asked Applejack.
Which picture of Uncle Strudel is it?
Granny repeated.
Oh, well, he's standing in front of the barn,
replied AJ.
Oh, that's nice. Put it in the album,
she commanded. Applejack placed said picture in a slot, then moved on to the next photo, which was another picture of Uncle Applestrudel standing in front of the barn.
Heh, must be a double print,
she thought to herself, before looking at the next print, which again showed Uncle Strudel in front of the barn.
What the?
The confused Applejack began flipping through her 100 stack, and every single photo was of Apple Strudel in front of different portions of the barn. It was as if the photos were a film strip of Strudel slowly making progress. She turned to her elder.
Granny, all of these photos are just of Uncle Strudel in front of the barn.
Well, of course, dearie,
Granny replied.
You picked up from the Uncle Strudel in front of the barn stack.
Applejack turned from her granny and started flipping through the stack where she had gotten the 100 pictures from. And sure enough, each one was a Strudel. The next stack over showed him in front of the roadside fence, and another around the biggest tree, and still another showed him in front of Applebloom's clubhouse. She then looked at the pictures in Granny's lap and saw that they too were of Uncle Strudel, only the house was behind him.
Granny, did you only take photos of Uncle Strudel?
She asked frustratingly.
No, don't be silly, Applejack. That stack there is the barn raising.
She pointed to a stack of 10 pictures on the corner of the table. Applejack face-huffed. All that film wasted, just to chronicle Strudel's very slow journey around Sweet Apple Acres. She sighed.
Granny, we only need one photo from each of these stacks, but the rest have got to go.
Oh, that's a shame. Uncle Strudel sure did love posing for the camera.
Granny Smith said a bit sadly.
But if it's only one picture from each stack, then we've got to find the best one. Let's start with the house first.
Applejack sighed once more in frustration. Before she sat down, she grabbed the kitchen wastebasket, which was thankfully empty. There was going to be a lot of paper filling it pretty soon. Applejack thought that perhaps they could use the discards as kindling for the fireplace so that they wouldn't be a total waste of money. She sat down next to her grandmother once more. She noticed that Granny had already placed one photo of Strudel in front of the house in the album, so they were set. So that left all the other hundreds of photos, which her grandmother decided to go through one at a time.
This is going to be a long day,
Applejack thought to herself. Granny Smith then held up the first photo.
This is Uncle Strudel in front of the house,
she said as she handed the photo to Applejack, her gaze still on the photo in her lap. Applejack tore the picture up and threw it in the basket.
This is Uncle Strudel at the back of the house.
Again, she handed the photo to Applejack, who promptly tore it up before discarding it.
This is Uncle Strudel at the side of the house.
The picture was handed off and was torn.
This is Uncle Strudel back again in front of the house, but you can still see the side of the house.
The oblivious mare continued on, while Applejack repeated her process.
And this is Uncle Strudel even nearer to the side of the house, but you can still see the front.
Hand off, tear, discard.
This is the back of the house, with Uncle Strudel coming around the side to the front.
Second verse, same as the first.
And this is the Spanish Inquisition hiding behind the tool shed.
Applejack was about to tear, then realized what Granny Smith had said. She looked at the photo, and Uncle Strudel was nowhere in sight. Instead, there were 3 stallions in red robes and strange hats peeking around the corner of their tool shed as the barn was being raised.
Oh, I didn't expect the Spanish Inquisition,
Applejack replied honestly. With this summoning call, the front door was thrown open, an ominous music tone was played, and the 3 red-robed stallions ran into their living room, stopping before them.
Nopony expects the Spanish Inquisition!
Applejack, both startled and confused, just shouted,
What in tarnation?
Was that?
The elderly mare asked confusedly, though not startled at all. The leader in the big red hat spoke up to the 2 mares on the couch.
Old woman, you are accused of heresy, and you must come with us for confession. Well, say, Sonny, you'll have to speak up. Hearing's gone south on me.
The old mare rubbed one ear, trying to get sound into it. Where had that deafening tone come from?
Dang kids and their music.
Applejack was just confused by the whole situation, and just stared at them slack-jawed.
Right, we will explain it to you later. Now?
He turned to the one in the aviator helmet.
Cardinal Biggles.
He then turned to the one in the red hood.
Cardinal Fang, take the old woman.
The 2 then picked up Granny Smith and placed her on both of their backs.
Whoa, watch it there, young man. My hip ain't what it used to be.
The old pony scolded. Applejack broke out of her confused daze when they grabbed her grandma, and she stood up to them.
Hey now, you put my granny down this instant, before I buck you all where the sun don't shine,
she shouted in anger. The Spanish Inquisition responded by pushing the many photos of Uncle Strudel onto Applejack, who became buried immediately.
Right, that's enough. Quickly, let's go,
shouted the leader, and the 3 zealots, with the old mare in tow, fled the house.
Oh, and clean up that mess, Applejack.
Granny Smith called back. Applejack stuck her head out of the mountain of pictures, with fury in her eyes.
Get back here with my grandma,
she shouted as she burst through the photos, scattering them everywhere, and ran out the door. They were nowhere in sight. She saw hoofprints leading off into the orchard, so she followed them with speed that would make Rainbow Dash jealous. As she ran off into the sea of apple trees, the Spanish Inquisition stuck their heads out of the tool shed and sneered. They had doubled back, but they needed to do their business without that mare interfering. The leader in the hat turned towards Granny Smith, who was now just being held up by her arms.
Right, old woman. We need a more secluded and quiet spot, preferably underground, where we may torture a confession out of you. Do you happen to have a dungeon nearby?
She thought aloud, oblivious to the fact that the stallion had said torture.
Well, we have an apple cellar around by the barn. Will that do? Yes, perfect, thank you.
the leader said sincerely before shouting,
To the cellar!
With this, the other two carried Granny Smith as they followed him to the apple cellar, cackling evilly the whole way. As they descended the stairs into the cellar, they took in their surroundings. There were barrels and barrels of apples and apple accessories. Against one of the walls were hooks, which held chains neatly, and in the corner was a writing desk, most likely used for inventory, with a nice comfy-looking chair in front of it. The three ponies smiled. This was a perfect room to get a confession in. They then shackled Granny Smith to the wall with the chains. If she wanted, she could easily get free of her bonds, as all they did was wrap her two forelegs with a different chain 3 times. She wasn't even hanging from the wall.
Now what's going on here, young man?
She asked the head zealot, the strangeness of the situation finally dawning on her. He in turn replied,
Ha! Now, old woman, you are accused of heresy on 3 counts. Heresy by thought, heresy by word, heresy by deed, and heresy by action.
He realized his mistake and added,
4 counts. Do you confess?
Granny Smith was clearly confused by the stallion's question, and the whole situation for that matter.
I don't understand what I'm accused of,
she replied. This caused the 3 fanatics to begin laughing in their diabolical laughter, before the leader spoke again.
Then we will make you understand.
He looked to the pony in the aviator helmet.
Biggles, fetch the cushions!
An ominous tone followed this declaration, and Granny Smith looked around for the source. Biggles then produced the 2 cushions from Rarity's couch. This confused Granny Smith even more.
What are they going to do with them fancy pillows?
She thought to herself.
Here they are, Lord,
Biggles proclaimed. The leader then looked back at Granny Smith.
Now, old lady, you have one last chance. Confess to the heinous sin of heresy. Reject the works of the uncelestial. 2 last chances, and you shall be free. 3 last chances. You have 3 last chances, the nature of which I have divulged in my previous utterance.
Granny Smith didn't understand a single word the stallion in the red hat said. It didn't help that he spoke fast and kept correcting himself.
I don't know what you're talking about, dagnabbit. Slow down and say it again,
she replied, frustrated.
Right, if that's the way you want it. Cardinals, poke her with the soft cushions.
Biggles handed a cushion to Fang, and both took them in their mouths, all the while still sneering, and they began to poke Granny Smith with them. She just looked at them. She was now more confused than ever.
Confess! Confess! Confess!
Shouted the chief cardinal as they poked her.
What the hell are you colts doing?
She asked.
It doesn't seem to be hurting her, Lord,
Biggles suddenly said and stopped his prodding.
Have you got all the stuffing up at one end?
Asked the leader.
Yes, Lord,
Biggles responded. The cardinal leader then took Fang's cushion and examined it in his hooves. He then looked at a confused Granny Smith again. He threw the cushion away, and Biggles did the same.
She's made of harder stuff. Cardinal Fang,
he said, turning to the hooded pony.
Fetch the comfy chair.
The jarring music played again, as a look of pure horror came over Fang's face.
The comfy chair,
he said in a terrified voice. Granny Smith couldn't understand it. Why would a pony be scared of something that sounded great for her aching legs? Despite her fear, the stallion grabbed the comfy chair by the desk and wheeled it over while Biggles unchained her.
Careful now, that's my grandson's seat you got there,
the elderly mare scolded.
So, you think you are strong because you survived the soft cushions?
He asked with malice.
Well, we shall see. Biggles, put her in the comfy chair.
The helmeted stallion then pushed Granny Smith into the chair in a sitting position, much to the relief of her aching hooves. She sighed in relaxation a bit before the cardinal continued.
Now, you will stay in the comfy chair until lunchtime, with only a cup of coffee at 11. Well, that sounds lovely. Glad to see you boys finally getting some manners about you.
Granny Smith began to relax more.
This won't be half bad, even with your brain-damaged idiots here.
Sensing that this torture was a bit off, the leader turned to Biggles.
Is that really all it is?
He asked.
Yes, Lord,
Biggles responded.
I see. I suppose we make it worse by shouting a lot, don't we?
He said contemplatively. He then returned his attention back to Granny Smith.
Confess, woman,
he said calmly. She looked back up at him in exasperation.
What now?
She asked. He raised his voice.
Confess!
Granny Smith shrank into the couch a little, scrunching her face at how loud he was yelling.
Confess! Confess! Confess!
I confess!
Biggles exclaimed in sorrow, kneeling before both Granny Smith and his boss.
Not you!
The leader said in anger and frustration.
I confess!
A voice shouted behind them, startling the chief cardinal.
Who said that?
He shouted as he turned around.
I confess that I'm going to kick all your skinny flanks down to Tartarus and back,
said Applejack, as she stepped out of the darkness of the cellar with an evil grin on her face.
Oh dear,
said the chief cardinal in fear. One incredibly brutal flank-kicking later, the bruised and battered stallions were all thrown in the dirt past the entrance to Sweet Apple Acres.
And I don't want to see either of y'all ever again near my property or my family. If I do, then I won't go easy on you next time.
Applejack snorted at them.
And stop playing your music so loud, you dang kids,
Granny Smith added for extra emphasis. Both grandmother and granddaughter walked back to the house. The events that transpired didn't need analyzing by the two because A, they were still really weird and confusing, and they hurt just thinking about them, and B, some tail-whooping solved the whole problem in their opinion.
Let's get back to the photo album, Granny,
Applejack said with a smile.
Sounds good, Sugar Cube,
Granny Smith replied cheerfully.
We still have to go through that stack of photos showing Uncle Strudel in front of the cow stables,
she added. Applejack rolled her eyes and just sighed. Out on the road, the Spanish Inquisition began walking back into town, where they passed a confused Big Macintosh and Cheerilee, who just stared at their strange clothes and bruised faces.
Let us go for some spam. It's always best for injuries,
said the leader in the hat.
But, my lord, what if someone else says a line while we're eating?
Asked Biggles.
Come now, the episode is almost over, and we did our 2 bits. We can relax now,
their leader responded.
But supposing they do? We'd have to run real fast to get to them before the episode time slot ran out,
Thing added.
Nonsense! The only being that would do such a cruel thing would be a massive troll. And who could possibly be that trollific?
In Canterlot.
Hello, my most faithful student. It's a surprise seeing you here.
Celestia smiled at the entrance of the nervous-looking Twilight Sparkle.